Rui Costa is a Portuguese football icon, elegant, refined, and dignified, a true artist on the Champions League pitch. Yet, even Rui Costa had an idol, someone 91% of online voters didn't recognize, Paulo Futre. His name echoes from a different era, where football didn't need social media to prove genius. Figo once said, "The first time I saw Futre play, it felt like I'd seen God." No exaggeration, just truth. In that match, Figo was a boy in the stands, while Futre danced across the field, turning seasoned La Liga defenders into unwilling spectators. No one knew where the ball would go, only that their eyes couldn't leave the man on the left wing, wearing Madrid's red and white. Roll out a carpet on the left corridor of the Calderon for Futre to charge toward the goal. Luis Aragonés, who led Spain to Euro glory, said without hesitation, "Futre is the best player I ever coached." Baresi, Milan's legendary defender, admitted he sometimes wept watching Futre play. Johan Cruyff, the spiritual father of tiki-taka, nodded in approval. "He's among my favorite players." Then there was Maradona, who faced Futre just once, but spoke of him for years. Maradona's son once told the press, "Among the names my father often mentioned, Futre was always there." They called him Portugal's Maradona, not for curly hair or dazzling dribbles, but because, like Diego, he played as if tomorrow was the apocalypse, each match a final performance to be remembered. Futre is a chapter of football many have forgotten, but those who saw him glide down the left wing never will. At 9, the boy named Paulo forged a birth certificate to play in Sporting's U13 tournament, as the rules required players to be at least 10. The adults around him didn't care much about rules. They knew this kid was extraordinary. And he was. In that tournament, the boy with a borrowed name didn't just play. He led his village team to defeat Sporting on their own turf, bringing the trophy home like it was inevitable. Aurelio Pereira, who later discovered Figo and Cristiano Ronaldo, stood frozen in Mafra. He wanted to sign the kid immediately, not even knowing his real name. The truth came out, and Futre became Sporting's. Shy and reserved at first, like any teenager, he scored 7 goals in his debut match. The rest was predictable. Paulo Futre became the talk of the town. At 14, he quit school, telling his parents he'd become a legend. His father, a mechanic, scoffed at such dreams, dragging him to the workshop to taste grease and wrenches. But Futre's oil-stained hands still found the net. At 17, Sporting couldn't wait any longer. They threw him into the first team, hoping he wouldn't crumble under the spotlight. Instead, Futre set the pitch ablaze. Weeks later, he was called up to the national team, becoming Portugal's youngest ever player. Not Figo, not Ronaldo, not João Felix. Yet, unbelievably, Sporting doubted him. They gave him just 20 minutes per match, fearing they'd ruin his talent. In those 20 minutes, he made Europe take notice. At 18, he earned a national team call-up. But instead of embracing him, Sporting Lisbon chose another path, planning to loan him out or pay other youngsters double his salary. Futre felt like a dog kicked out the door. "It was the saddest day of my life," he said. Then, a hand reached out, not an angel, but powerful enough to change his life. Pinto da Costa, Porto's chairman, a Don Corleone of Portuguese football. Learning of the situation, Pinto sent someone to wait by Futre's car at Sporting's training ground. No long talk, just one question. "Paulo, want to play for Porto?" In a panic, the kid jumped in the car. That afternoon, in a Lisbon office, Pinto called, "Here, the team is Futre plus 10 others. I don't care who they are, you'll start every game." Futre nodded. That night, they hid him in a remote hotel, beyond Sporting's reach. Using a vague psychological distress clause in Portuguese football law, they broke his contract. Porto offered him a deal second only to Fernando Gomes, a 2-time European Golden Boot winner. And so, Futre became Porto's. Sporting didn't forgive. Fans who once cheered his goals now threw stones at his windows, calling him a traitor, defacing walls. One day, Futre called his mother, only to hear her scream through tears, "What have you done to this family?" He replied, childlike, "Mom, I'll buy you a new house." But her words silenced him. "Paulo, we don't need money. We just want our old life back." Futre broke down. He thought he belonged to the pitch, but now he wasn't sure. He considered quitting football to return to fixing cars. Porto wouldn't let him. They didn't call him a player. They called him king. The city welcomed him like a prince. To repay that love, Futre didn't just play, he played to honor them. And thank heavens he played magnificently. In his first year at Porto, 18-year-old Futre played like a king. His partnership with Fernando Gomes wasn't just chemistry, it was magic. The next year, he led Porto to defend their title, earning the league's Best Player award at 19. By his third year, as Porto stepped onto the European stage, Futre became a beast. Against Rabat Ajax, he He contributed to 4 of 9 goals. Against Vitor, despite a 1-0 loss in the first leg, Futre ended their hopes with a stunning solo goal in a 3-0 second leg win. In the quarterfinals, Porto faced Brøndby, with Peter Schmeichel and Bent Larsen. A tense draw in Denmark, after a narrow first leg win, sent Porto to the semi-finals against Dynamo Kyiv, led by Ballon d'Or winner Igor Belanov, fresh off a C2 Cup triumph and favorites to win. But Futre had an odd motivator. Victory meant dodging military service, an escape from a confined future. He scored the opener in a 2-1 home win. In the return leg, playing through injury with 7 cortisone shots, Futre earned a penalty leading to the first goal 3 minutes in. 7 minutes later, Gomez scored again. Porto reached their first ever European Cup final. Their opponent, Bayern Munich with Matheus Brema and Rummenigge. The press mocked Pinto da Costa. How many goals will you lose by? Porto had never won a major final abroad. Bayern led at halftime, but Futre refused to yield. He dribbled past 3, played a 1-2, beat 2 more, and faced the keeper, only to pass to Major, who missed. That run sparked the team. 12 minutes later, Major scored his famous backheel. 2 minutes after that, Wari sealed it. Porto conquered Europe. Though Major and Wari scored, no one disputed Futre as the match's best player. The next morning, Portuguese headlines screamed, "Futre, the next Maradona." Barcelona, seeking Maradona's replacement, showed interest, but coach Terry Venables, with his English bias, rejected Futre, just as he'd rejected Van Basten and Hugo Sanchez for Steve Archibald. He was soon sacked. No matter, Real wanted Futre, so did Juventus, but Inter Milan thought they'd secured him. Then, Jesus Gil, Atletico Madrid's presidential candidate, arrived in Milan. He didn't just want a contract, he wanted Futre as his campaign symbol. Porto secretly offered a deal with a $3.2 million release clause, the second highest in La Liga history. Gil paid it without blinking. Only one name cost more: Maradona. That name never left the story. They met once in a charity match. Futre's Atletico coach, Cesar Menotti, who'd coached Maradona at Barcelona, was asked about their similarities. He said simply, "Futre is his heir." Futre was the first Portuguese player with such a high-profile transfer to a major club. In Spain, he faced skeptical glares. Spanish players resented a foreigner being La Liga's brightest star. They fouled him brutally, silencing stadiums, thinking he was done. Each time he rose, Futre said, "Soy Portuguese. I'm Portuguese. Bring a gun next time, because I'll keep getting up." And he did. In his first 10 games, Futre led Atletico to beat Barcelona and crush Real 4-0. That year, he finished top 3 in the Ballon d'Or, behind Ruud Gullit. Many called it a farce. Rui Costa called it a joke. Diario AS dubbed it the most unjust vote in history. Mourinho, Figo, and Christian Vieri agreed. Awards can be wrong, but genius never is. Decades later, when asked about the result, Gullit stayed silent. Futre? He remained a vivid memory for a generation, often believing Maradona had a brother on Iberia's western edge. At 22, Futre became Atletico Madrid's captain, a young Portuguese player not from their academy. To Jesus Gil, La Liga's most cunning owner, Futre wasn't just a star. He was the symbol, soul, and heart of Atletico. Gil, who valued image over trophies, knew the captain's armband on Futre was a bold statement. This was the Mad Kids team. Despite thrilling the Vicente Calderón and earning applause at Camp Nou, his first 3 years were trophyless, marked by injuries and an indescribable void. In his 4th year, something shifted. Despite missing months with 3 major injuries, Futre returned to lead Atletico to the Copa del Rey final. They ousted Real Madrid in the round of 16, and Futre scored a classy chip against Barcelona in the semi-finals. In the final against Mallorca, Atletico won their first domestic title in years. Futre touched silver. The next year, his last injury-free season, Atletico reached another Copa del Rey final, facing Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. The script was set. Schuster, a real reject, scored first. Futre, from an impossible angle, ruthlessly finished off his old foe. When King Juan Carlos shook his hand, Futre whispered in Portuguese. Later, he revealed, "That day, I made the king speak Portuguese." But at that peak, things slid. Some blamed Atletico's financial strain, others Futre's injuries or the weight of expectations. Some thought he just wanted out. Whatever the reason, mid-season, he left Madrid. His career spiraled. Inter Milan tried again, but Futre chose Benfica, shocking fans by joining a third Portuguese giant after Sporting and Porto. Benfica went unbeaten with him, but Porto took the title. In the Portuguese Cup, Futre erupted. 2 goals, 1 assist, and the trophy went to Lisbon. It seemed like a revival, but his knee survived on cortisone. Benfica's financial crisis hit. Stars broke contracts. Futre joined Marseille, the European champions, but a match-fixing scandal exploded. UEFA banned them from Europe, and the transfer market opened early to save players. Futre nearly joined Real but refused, fearing his daughter would be called a traitor's child. He chose Milan, but first played on loan at Reggiana, a Serie A newcomer. In his debut, he scored, then collapsed. A torn ACL, one of the first recorded in sports. Doctors didn't know where to start. The first surgery had 100 reporters, the second, 50, the third, a handful. The world thought recovery took 3 months. It stole nearly a year. At 27, Futre returned, played 1 match for Milan, enough for a championship medal, then joined West Ham for 9 games before retiring quietly. Years later, an Atletico coach invited him to train for fun. Half a knee, extra weight, and cigarette smoke didn't stop him. He was still better than anyone. He signed again. At his unveiling, Gil tried to speak, but the crowd's chants of Futre, Futre drowned the speakers. 2 years later, he retired. From 27 to the end, he played just 68 matches, mostly off the bench. Rui Costa's words ring true for every football fan. Every football lover deserved to see more of Futre. He began with an exclamation mark for the world and ended with ellipses of regret.